Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palmer Show. And in this episode, I've got someone with me who's been an NCAA Division One college basketball player in the US, a Citadel cadet, a marketing executive, a hospital administrator, an undercover narcotics investigator, a SWAT team hostage negotiator, a high school basketball coach, a business owner, a motivational speaker, an author, and most recently, a cancer warrior. Wow, that's a pretty good resume there. Terry Tucker, welcome to the Dave Palmer Show.
Thanks, Dave. Listening to you talk there, kind of, one of these days I'm going to figure out what I want to do when I grow up,
Yeah. Well, I said a firefighter, when I was an adult, and someone said, no, when you grow up, what do you want to do? So, there you go. Anyway, let's move on. You've got an amazing story to tell, and you contacted me and said you got a unique blend of positive, bent idea on mental health and self-improvement, which my show is pretty much, the general core is really getting people talking about that side. Although I do branch off to entertainment, entrepreneurship, business, and, that kind of thing. Sports, that's a favorite of mine. And yours too, you're pretty much into basketball. I was track and field, really. So, let's get me to, I want to get to tell your story. Yeah, well, tell us about your humble beginnings and your journey in life, because obviously you've done many things, as I mentioned.
I have. So I was born and raised in Chicago, and obviously you can't tell this from just my voice, but
yeah.
I'm 6'8" tall, and I played college basketball at the Citadel. Yeah. I have a brother who's 6'7", who was a pitcher at the University of Notre Dame, and then my middle brother is 6'6". And he was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the National Basketball Association here in the U.S. So, sports, huge in our family growing up. And you kind of went through a little bit of what I've been through in terms of jobs and stuff like that. So let me, I guess, for the sake of time, start in 2012 when I was diagnosed with this rare form of melanoma, rare form of cancer.
Okay.
When I was a basketball coach. I had a callus break open on the bottom of my foot. And I'm like, I didn't think of it. I was on my feet a lot. I went to a podiatrist, a foot doctor friend of mine. And he cut out a cyst. And he's, I've seen thousands of these, no big deal. 2 weeks later, he calls me back and he was having a hard time telling me. And eventually he kind of just laid it out there. And he said, Terry, I've been practicing for 25 years. I've never seen this form of cancer. Right. So you need to go here in the United States. Probably the best cancer hospital is MD Anderson in Houston, Texas. So that's where I went. I had 2 surgeries to remove the tumor in my foot and all the lymph nodes in my groin. And then when I healed, I was put on a weekly injection of a drug called interferon. And again, for the sake of time, interferon basically gave me flu-like symptoms for 2 to 3 days every week after each injection. Right. And I took those injections for 5 years. Right. So imagine having the flu every week for 5 years.
Wow.
And that's kind of what I went through. And then when they stopped that, 2017, the disease came back. 2018, had my left foot amputated. Wow. 2019, 2 more surgeries. And then last year, an undiagnosed tumor in my ankle grew large enough that it shattered my tibia, my shin bone.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
And then right in the middle of a global pandemic last April, I had my left leg amputated above the knee. My wife and I have been married for 27 years. It was hard for her to drop me off at the hospital and say good luck.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my journey.
Yeah, well, that's quite a tough thing to get through, and obviously the title "Cancer Warrior" obviously describes that as your present kind of job description at the moment, if you like. But yeah, I mean that's quite serious stuff. I mean, obviously rare cancers as well, can catch anyone at any age, so it's not. I think the main thing there is most people should really get themselves checked out, and don't sort of ignore anything like you did. You didn't ignore it; you went straight to your friend and thought, "Oh, it's this, never mind." But obviously caught it. If people don't do that, it's going to be too late if they just leave it, because
people get scared,
that's the other thing.
I don't know what this is, and so they hesitate. And you're right. I mean, you catch things early, and it's amazing what medical science can do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So your life, obviously, I think really mentally shaped you to become a warrior like this, unless you was born a warrior. So tell us about your journey before this happened. I mean, obviously you was a cop, you was a basketball player at high school, and so you was born in Chicago anyway, born or raised there, or both?
Both, actually. Graduated from high school there, went on to college and that, but my passion really was law enforcement, and my grandfather was a Chicago police officer from 1924 to 1954. So he was in Chicago, during the Prohibition,
Prohibition,
and the gangs.
Yeah. That's right. That's quite a serious
and all
time.
that stuff. Yeah. And I wanted to kind of follow in his footsteps.
The Great Depression.
But he was actually shot in the line of duty with his own gun.
With his own gun?
Pardon me?
With his own gun?
With his own gun. He was taking a murder suspect back to the lockup, and he had a shoulder holster. The guy reached in and grabbed his gun, and the gun went off, shot my grandfather in the ankle. But my father always remembered the stories my grandmother told about the knock on the door of, Mrs. Tucker, grab your son. Your husband's been shot. Come with us. So he had my whole life plan. You're going to go to college. You're going to major in business. When you get out of business, school, you're going to do. But that was the life he wanted me to lead. That wasn't the life that I wanted to leave, that I was born to lead. So, but I did. I mean, he was sick when I graduated from college. He ended up dying about 3.5 years after I got out. So I did what he wanted until he passed away. And then I followed my passion for law enforcement. So, but had a lot of fun, enjoyed it. I was an undercover narcotics investigator, and, I'm 6'8" tall. So people always want to know, how did you do undercover narcotics when you were that tall? And the answer was that what motivates that industry, and it is an industry, is greed. And if you have money, people are willing to sell you drugs. Doesn't matter how tall you are.
Yeah, that's right. So that was your specialist area. Obviously, everyone starts on the ground. Same as firefighters. You do 20-week basic training. Well, it's less than that now, but then you go on the front line like everyone else, and then you choose which department you want to go in. So it's a similar kind of thing, or go up to chief or whatever. So narcotics it's kind of like an undercover thing, is it? Really?
Yeah, we were wearing plain clothes.
Just getting that's right. Just pretending you're one of them until they find out you're not.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And and I did a lot of informants. I had a lot of informants that I worked with that would go in and buy dope for me. Yeah. And then I'd hit the place with a search warrant and shut them down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And also you was a member of the SWAT team. What was that? What was that like?
So I was a hostage negotiator. So, people that barricaded themselves or even people that we knew, like, homicide suspects that we knew were staying at a certain place. It was a lot of fun. I worked with a great group of people. We had some funny stories. I remember one time I showed up on the scene and I talked to the district officers and I'm like, what's the deal? It's like, this guy's drunk. He's barricaded himself in the house with his wife and a gun.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And they had him on the phone. So I started to talk to him. And finally I said to him, what would it take for you to come out? He said, give me a beer. I said, if I got you a beer, I would have your word that you would let your wife go and you would come out. Yeah. So I gave one of the officers $5. I said, go down to the store, buy a beer.
Yeah.
He did. We put the beer on the front porch. And I said to him, your beer is on the front porch, but you don't get it till your wife comes out. You put the gun down and you come out. He's like, you promise I can drink the beer? I said, I promise. So here comes his wife. Then here he comes. We handcuff him, let him drink the beer, and off to jail he goes. So,
At least he got the beer anyway.
he did. I mean, that's all he cared about. Just give me a beer. I know I'm going to jail.
Yeah. That's kind of like a moment for him, really, that he went through. But obviously, there's more serious cases of hostage negotiation. Obviously, in London, we've had a lot of terrorist stuff going on. I'm sure hit there as well. I probably, that's when you really. I mean, I worked with someone who worked doing something similar to that, where they had to do raids, and then they had someone who hit the floor first. You had different people doing certain things before you actually go and smash down the door if you had to go and raid the place. In the end,
right.
So you had different people doing different roles at the time, didn't you? Really, it's a bit like in firefighting. We had the same thing. We have someone on the branch, someone, at the pump. Someone on the ladder crew, that kind of thing. But obviously, with this situation, it's teamwork just as much, isn't it?
It is. It totally is, and that's the there was a movie many years ago that came out called The Negotiator.
Yeah,
and Samuel L. Jackson.
That's right.
Played the negotiator, and I always get the question, what is that the way it's like? I'm like, no, that's nothing like the way it's like, because when I'm negotiating, there's somebody sitting right next to me who's all their job is to do is listen and pass me notes. Don't ask this or ask this question or something like that. And then there are another group of people that really are out there conducting surveillance and getting intelligence, talking to the person's mother or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and then passing that along. So it's a team effort. It's just not one person doing it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So teamwork's very imperative and very important out there, and it's everywhere, isn't it? It's in the home, it's in the where everyone's working. Obviously, unless you're really in some kind of solitary type job where you don't rely on anyone at all, but generally there's somewhere along in life there's some sort of team effort going on, so
there is. And Hollywood is great. They make it seem like it's just this one guy with a big S on his chest. That's
right. But that's how the story goes. There's always got to be someone who's it's epic, so
right.
So that's the way it goes, really.
Exactly.
So anyway, so you moved on from the police department. Obviously you did your 30 years or 20 years or whatever it is.
Actually only did 10. My wife is the primary breadwinner and she lost her job. So we had to move. So I only got to do it for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, still, anyway, that's people always they say the same as firefighting, but it's more more so cops. They always say once a cop, always a cop. But same with any profession. You still that's a long time, still 10 years anyway in a job like that. So
it is, and I wish I could have done it for another 50 years. But,
yeah.
Life kind of gets in the way, and my family's more important than the job.
Yeah. We were always jokingly saying that that the firefighters are the good guys, but of course,
you are.
Yeah, we all work together. The team effort, obviously, when you turn up at a major incident, the police are there, the ambulances are there, and I've been to a few, and it's a team effort there as well. You can't make do without any of the other first responders and emergency services around.
Oh, it is. And when we needed help and we got on the radio, everybody came. And when you guys needed help and you got on the radio and said, we came to help you. So absolutely a team effort. Yeah,
that's it. Exactly. So you moved on there. You moved after 10 years away to I know you said different parts of America. So you're doing other, what did you do after that?
So I ended up starting a school security consulting business based on the experience that I had in law enforcement and things like that.
Yeah.
And I worked with schools around the United States to improve their physical security and that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was
That's needed.
It was. It was something that, was kind of, I sort of did it before there were a lot of people that were doing it.
Right.
And,
I see. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. And there were a lot of schools that had, gaping holes in their security, but I think most people now are pretty secure. And then I also coached high school girls basketball. And that's when I found out I had the cancer. And in all honesty, that was 2012. I haven't worked since then other than writing my book.
Yeah, absolutely. And you wrote a book called Sustainable Excellence, 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon Extraordinary Life. That's released now, isn't it? Recently.
It was released last October.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that book. What is it? What's the 10 principles? And
so the book was really born out of two stories that I had. One was a former player that had come to Colorado, where my wife and I live, and I coached girls basketball. So she and her boyfriend were here, and we had dinner with them a couple of times. And I said to her one day, I said, I'm excited that you're living here and I can kind of watch you find and live your purpose. Yeah. And she got real quiet for a while. And she was like, Coach, what do you think my purpose is? I said, I have no idea what your purpose is. That's what your life should be about, finding that purpose. And then once you find it, living it. So that was one conversation. And then I had another conversation with a young man in college who reached out to me on LinkedIn. And he said, what are the things that you think I should know to be not only successful in my business or in my job, but also in life? And I didn't want to give him the, work hard, get up early, help others kind of stuff. Not that those aren't important, they are, but they've been done. And I kind of wanted to do something different, something, kind of get deeper, sort of into his soul. So I thought for a while and I wrote notes, and eventually I had these 10 principles and I sent them to him. And then I kind of stepped back and I was like, well, I got a life story that fits under this principle, or I know somebody whose life emulates this principle. So literally last April, I had my leg amputated. And then in June, I started chemotherapy for the tumors that I have in my lungs now. And between that time, that 3-month period, I literally sat down at the computer and kind of built stories underneath those principles. And that's kind of how sustainable excellence came to be.
Yeah, great. Well, I know you say I know you kind of emailed before, and I see that you focus on the healthy aspects of being sick, and there's 3 or 4 things. What are those aspects that you focus on, the healthy aspects of being sick?
So these are kind of what I've developed over these last 9 years as my 4 truths, and in conjunction with what I call my 3 F's: faith, family, and friends, which is kind of how I've gotten through cancer this far.
Yep.
The 4 truths are they're just one sentence, and I have them on a Post-it note here on my desk that I see every day. So the first one is control your mind or it will control you. The second one is embrace the pain and the suffering that we all experience in life and use it to make you a stronger and more determined individual. The third one is what we leave behind is what we weave in the hearts of other people.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one is, as long as you don't quit, you can never be defeated. So I use those truths in addition to, the 3 F's. And I recently had a nurse came to me and I'm on this clinical trial right now with a new drug, and it pretty much kicks my butt. I am on for a week and then I have 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
And I'm getting ready to start again on Monday. And I had a nurse come to me and say, Terry, this is literally kicking your butt. Nobody would think anything less of you if you stopped this trial, if you got off this drug. And I tried to explain to her the 4 truths and that, and I could tell it wasn't registering with her. And I said, my doctor may take me off this study or I may die on this study, but I will never quit this study because that's just not how I'm wired. How I'm made up. So those are kind of those 4 truths. And we're all going to have pain in our life. And it doesn't have to be as serious as, a terminal illness like I had. I mean, you could flunk a test in school or break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or, have an auto accident on the way to work, whatever it is. We all get into those dark places. Pain is inevitable. Suffering, on the other hand, that's optional, and that's up to you.
Yeah, wow. Are you doing some motivational speaking? I know obviously during the pandemic, it all kind of like went virtual really, and kind of doing these podcasts as well, which I'm very grateful for. But I know you have a motivational check. That's your name of your website. So do you do motivational speaking with that together with the book, or are you planning? Or?
I do, but in all honesty, here in the States, we really haven't opened up enough yet.
Okay,
to where.
But virtually. I mean, there are some virtual.
Yeah, virtually and podcasts and things like that are really kind of what I'm doing right now. But I'm kind of excited to get back, and I've been vaccinated and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
What happens.
Yeah. I haven't had mine yet, and I don't even know if I've probably had the coronavirus because you don't even know sometimes. There's no symptoms, is there? So that's the problem with that. Well, I like your website anyway. It's motivationalcheck.com. Obviously, it's got this really picture that immediately grabs you. Gives you that motivational, inspirational feel straight away.
Every day I put up a new thought for the day. On Mondays, I put up the Monday morning motivational message, which is a lot of times a video or a story, but I realize people's time is kind of at a premium. So, things are quick. The videos are no longer than, 5-10 minutes. Same with the stories. They're very short. So if you need a quick shot of motivation or inspiration, go to motivationalcheck.com, get some motivation, and then get on with your life.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I like that website. And it's good that it's very short and brief like that, because I have dyslexia anyway, but even so, I like just quick reads like that.
Sure.
I think It's different to audio, because audio you can just switch it on. You don't even need, you can passively listen to it and just leave it and do other things, you know. But with videos and stuff where you have to pay attention a bit more, it's nice to have that quick kind of glance and I'll quickly just like that. So
and then move on and get back to whatever you need to do.
Yeah. But obviously, you get the book reader that loves that thick novel, and well, I'm nothing wrong with that. But I'm sure you might be a novel reader, but they love it. The readings they
do, and when I wrote Motivation or Sustainable Excellence, it's short. I mean, it's about 120 pages. So, it's not a big thick thing that you're going to spend hours, hours and hours.
I've got a book as well that a motivational speaker actually from the States helped me write. So that's nice. The same. That's the same. Very short chapters, about 100 pages altogether. So it's a quick read, and just like you say, each chapter is just a kind of inspirational read, which you can quickly do at any time. Yeah. So
exactly.
That's great. So can you tell my audience where they can find your, obviously we've mentioned your website and your book and everything else.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to contact me through email, it's motivationalcheck@aol.com. But if you go on to motivationalcheck.com, my website, you can get to my social media sites. You can get access to the book through Amazon. So, I mean, pretty much motivationalcheck.com will get you to me.
Yeah. That's great. Well, Terry, I really enjoyed this chat with you today. It felt like I was speaking to one of the lads around a kitchen table in the firehouse, So it's good to have that kind of. Obviously, off air before we came on, there's a little bit more, a few chuckles, but you have to keep it more professional when you're on air like this because we don't know who's listening, So no, it's really great. I enjoyed the chat, and obviously you're doing some great work out there with the book, and really enjoying like what you're doing. So thanks a lot for coming and speaking with my audience today and sharing your work.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's people like you that give people like me and, a forum, and hopefully between the two of us, we're going to make a difference in somebody's life today.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thanks a lot, Terry.
You're welcome. You take care.